Hello everyone, welcome to another evening of Math Adventures. Before we get started, let's do another word puzzle. Here is our word puzzle. If you've looked at the last few sessions we've done, you might notice that this time it looks a little crisper, a little nicer. I have a different document camera with a better camera on it. Not too bad. I wonder what word this is. Can you guess this word? I see this first one looks like a fairy. She has wings and a wand. So I think that might be a fairy. You know, I always draw my F's backwards. You ever notice that? I think I could draw them from the bottom up, like they're growing out of the ground like a flower. And then I know in school we draw them from the top down like that, and then from left to right. I always draw them backwards. Do you draw anything backwards? I would say this is a cat, except I notice there's an arrow pointing to this part of the cat, and the cat is looking at its tail. I bet that's going to be a T for tail. I know that's a hose. Excuse me, I know that's water coming out of it. Maybe it is a hose. This word at the end, I'm not sure if it's a worm or a bookworm or if it's that he's reading. Let's look at the rest of the letters and figure that out. Here is A for apple, fath. So what do you think that could be? We know this is an E for egg. I think this might be R for read because the word is reading. Because if I put an R, that does make a word, doesn't it? Father. When I was growing up, my father did spend some time doing some math things with me. But one thing I really remember in school was using these blocks that were meant for counting. Have you ever seen these that look like little cubes and sticks of cubes and squares of cubes? Have you seen these before in your classroom? Let's take a closer look at them. This little block in the middle is used to represent one, just one. And if I have more of them, they are ones. And I can count them one by one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's 5 of them. But what about this stick? If you look closely at the stick, you will see it is made up of 10 of these squares. You see how these 5 make it up halfway? You need another 5 to make them, make 10. We know how to count by ones, but how do we count by tens? Do you know how to count by tens? This is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. One of these is 10 times more than one of these. What if I have one of these? This is as big as 10 of these squares. I'll turn it this way. You can see, well, 10 of these are equal to one of these. You need 5 more sticks to be the same as this one square. And this square is the same as 100 of these little cubes. If I count by hundreds, I say 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. I can count up the rest of what I have. 510, 520, 530, 540, 550, 551, 552, 553, 554, 555. All these blocks together make 555 of these little cubes. That's a lot. Wait till I show you what else I have. This great big cube has 1,000 of those little cubes inside of it. 1,000 times bigger than this little thing. And this is 1/1000th as big as this big old square. But what about a very large number? What about 1,000,000? Well, it would take 1,000 of these big 1,000 cubes to make 1,000,000. Think of it. Each one of these little cubes would be a big cube like this. So that means that there would be 10 of these stacked up to make a stick, and 10 of those big sticks to make a big square like this. And 10 of those big flat squares would be in a big cube like this, about the size of a washing machine, would hold 1,000,000 of these little cubes. 1,000,000 is a pretty big number. What exactly does 1,000,000 of something look like? I've got a book that talks about that. It's called How Much is a Million? And it's by the same author who did If You Make a Million that I read the last couple times. How Much is a Million by David Schwartz. Pictures by Stephen Kellogg. How much is a million? Oh, you see here how the numbers are getting bigger because they have more zeros? This one here is 1,000,000. Marvelissimo, the mathematical magician. And there he is. If 1,000,000 kids climbed onto one another's shoulders, they would be taller than the tallest buildings and higher than the highest mountains. And farther up than airplanes could fly. If you wanted to count from 1 to 1,000,000, it would take you about 23 days. If a goldfish bowl were big enough for 1,000,000 goldfish, It would be big enough to hold a whale. Presto! 100 stars. If this book had 1,000,000 tiny stars, they would fill 70 pages. So climb aboard. Do you see all the tiny, tiny stars this entire page is holding? This book has those tiny stars covering 1 page, 2 pages, 3 pages, 4, 5. Remember, there's these tiny stars covering each one. 6 and 7. There you have 100,000 stars. If we were to take the 7-page journey 10 times, we'll pass 1,000,000 stars. Let's do that later. I'm hungry. I'm thirsty. How big is 1,000,000,000? If 1,000,000,000 kids made a human tower, they would stand up past the moon. If you sat down to count from 1 to 1,000,000,000, you would be counting for 95 years. It says, here lies Marvelosissimo, the mathematical magician. If you found a goldfish bowl large enough to hold 1,000,000,000 goldfish, it would be as big as a stadium. If this book had 1,000,000,000 tiny stars, its pages spread side by side would stretch almost 10 miles. How tremendous is a trillion? If 1,000,000,000 kids stood on top of each other, they would reach way, way, way beyond the moon. Beyond Mars and Jupiter too, and almost as far as Saturn's rings. Wow, 1,000,000,000 kids. If you wanted to count from 1 to 1,000,000,000,000, it would take almost 200,000 years. At that point, nobody is left. If you put 1,000,000,000 goldfish in a goldfish bowl, The bowl would have to be as big as a city harbor. If you put 1,000,000,000,000 of our stars onto a gigantic roll of paper, it would stretch all the way from New York to New Zealand. When you're learning about very difficult large numbers, the hardest part sometimes is learning how to write them. That can be kind of fun, though, if you play a game. I'll show you. We'll use the back of our word puzzle. First, let's just write down some numbers. Let's write something in the millions. Five million 324,621. Writing that out can be quite a mouthful, but let's write it out. Five million 324,000 621. Now the question I have for you is, how many letters are in the name of that number? If you want, you can pause the video and count them. I'll do the same. Phew, I counted 60 letters in that number's name. I made it easier to count by grouping them into groups of 10, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. So if I write the word for 60 over here, S-I-X-T-Y, 60, and I count those letters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I've got 5. Now I write out that number, F-I-V-E. How many letters is that? Right, there's 4 letters. If I write the number 4, F-O-U-R, then I still have only 4 letters, and I'm stuck. Do you see? It doesn't matter what number you begin with. If you play this game, you will always end up with the number 4. Can you see why? Big numbers are a lot of fun to play with. This is another book with a lot of big numbers in it. One of my favorites, and this is an actual book that I had when I was a child. It's called Millions of Cats. Millions of Cats by Wanda Gog. Millions of Cats. Once upon a time, there was a very old man and a very old woman. They lived in a nice, clean house which had flowers all around it, except where the door was. But they couldn't be happy because they were so very lonely. If only we had a cat, sighed the very old woman. A cat? Asked the very old man. Yes, a sweet little fluffy cat, said the very old woman. I will get you a cat, my dear, said the very old man. And he set out over the hills to look for one. He climbed over the sunny hills. He trudged through the cool valleys. He walked a long, long time, and at last he came to a hill which was quite covered with cats. Cats here, cats there, cats and kittens everywhere. Hundreds of cats, thousands of cats, millions and billions and trillions of cats. Oh, cried the old man joyfully. Now I can choose the prettiest cat and take it home with me. So he chose one. It was white. But just as he was about to leave, he saw another one, all black and white, and it seemed just as pretty as the first, so he took this one also. But then he saw a fuzzy gray kitten way over here, which was every bit as pretty as the others, so he took it too. And now he saw one way down in a corner, which he thought too lovely to leave, so he took this one too. And just then, over here, the very old man found a kitten which was black and very beautiful. Oh, it would be a shame to leave that one, said the very old man, so he took it. And now over there he saw a cat which had brown and yellow stripes like a baby tiger. Oh, I simply must take it, cried the very old man, and he did. So it happened that every time the very old man looked up, he saw another cat which was so pretty he could not bear to leave it, and before he knew it, he had chosen them all. And so he went back over the sunny hills and down through the cool valleys to show all his pretty kittens to the very old woman. It was very funny to see those hundreds and thousands and millions and billions and trillions of cats following him. They came to a pond. Meow, meow, we are thirsty, cried the hundreds of cats, thousands of cats, millions and billions and trillions of cats. Well, here is a great deal of water, said the very old man. Each cat took a sip of water, and the pond was gone. Now we are hungry, said the hundreds of cats, thousands of cats, millions and billions and trillions of cats. There is much grass on the hills, said the very old man. Each cat ate a mouthful of grass, and not a blade was left. Pretty soon, the very old woman saw them coming. My dear, she cried, what are you doing? I asked for one little cat, and what do I see? Cats Here, cats there, cats and kittens everywhere, hundreds of cats, thousands of cats, millions and billions and trillions of cats. But we can never feed them all, said the very old woman. They will eat us out of house and home. Oh, I never thought of that, said the very old man. What shall we do? The very old woman thought for a while, and then she said, I know. We will let the cats decide which one we should keep. Oh, yes, said the very old man, and he called to the cats. Which of you is the prettiest? I am. I am. No, I am. No, I am the prettiest. I am. No, I am, cried hundreds and thousands and millions and billions and trillions of voices, for each cat thought itself the prettiest, and they began to quarrel. They bit and scratched and clawed each other and made such a great noise that the very old man and the very old woman ran into the house as fast as they could. They did not like such quarreling, but after a while the noise stopped, and the very old man and the very old woman peeped out of the window to see what had happened. They could not see a single cat. I think they must have eaten each other all up, said the very old woman. It's too bad. Oh, but look, said the very old man, and pointed to a bunch of high grass. In it sat a little frightened kitten. They went out and picked it up. It was thin and scraggly. Poor little kitty, said the very old woman. Dear little kitty, said the very old man. How did it happen that you were not eaten up with all the other hundreds and thousands and millions and billions and trillions of cats? Oh, I'm just a very homely little cat, said the kitten. So when you asked who was the prettiest, I didn't say anything, so nobody bothered about me. They took the kitten into the house, where the very old woman gave it a warm bath and brushed its fur until it was soft and shiny. Every day, they gave it plenty of milk, and soon it grew nice and plump. And it is a very pretty cat after all, said the very old woman. It is the most beautiful cat in the whole world, said the very old man. I ought to know, for I've seen hundreds of cats, thousands of cats, millions and billions and trillions of cats, and not one was as pretty as this one. Oh, maybe the next time you hear someone talking about millions or billions or trillions, you'll have an idea of how much that actually is. I'll see you again soon for more math adventures. Have a good night.